If you've ever felt that effort weighs heavily on you, and the more you try, the more life seems to resist, if you've worn yourself out chasing love, success, or purpose only to be left feeling more empty than fulfilled, if people call you lazy while in truth, your soul is simply tired from navigating a world that has never felt quite right, if you often feel out of place in a society obsessed with constant striving, chasing, and becoming, while something deep inside you longs to simply be, know this: you are not broken. What you're feeling is a quiet remembrance within you, a knowing that peace is not achieved through control or force. True peace comes from alignment. It comes when we stop forcing life and start flowing with it. You're not falling behind. In fact, you may be starting to trust something that most people spend their entire lives trying to overpower. It's the quiet wisdom of the backward law, the principle that says the more we chase, the more we push things away. That what we truly seek often comes when we stop trying to grasp it. This brings us to a deeper reflection. If forcing doesn't work, how do I actually fulfill my deepest desires? From an early age, we're taught that the path to success is paved with effort, discipline, and relentless hustle. But hidden in ancient philosophies, protected within mystical traditions, and now echoed by modern psychology, lies a surprising truth. A paradox that few dare to fully embrace. The harder we try, the more elusive the outcome becomes. This is the paradox of effort, and understanding it is the first key to unlocking the backward law. To understand this better, consider what happens when someone wants something deeply, whether it's love, wealth, healing, or spiritual growth. The stronger the desire, the more emotional energy is attached to it. And while this emotional intensity is human and natural, it often becomes entangled with anxiety, fear, impatience, and mental pressure. When the mind becomes obsessed with a specific result, that intense focus creates inner resistance. The more we force, the more we block the very thing we're longing for. When we become consumed by desire and attach too much urgency to a particular outcome, we unknowingly activate what psychology refers to as performance anxiety. Rather than enhancing our abilities, this tension clouds our clarity, stiffens our bodies, disrupts natural breathing patterns, and blocks the subtle voice of intuition. In the effort to succeed, we ironically make success more difficult to attain. The British philosopher AlanWatts, known for translating Eastern wisdom into language the Western world could grasp, captured this paradox beautifully. He pointed out that the pursuit of happiness often makes people more miserable, not because happiness is unattainable, but because the very act of chasing it amplifies the sense that it's missing. In the same way, when we attempt to force ourselves into a state of relaxation, we become more tense, because true ease can only arise in the absence of effort. Watts ultimately concluded that real success and inner peace do not come from forcing or grasping. Instead, they emerge naturally when we loosen our grip, let go, and allow life to unfold in its own rhythm. This insight isn't limited to philosophy. It's echoed across spiritual traditions throughout time. Ancient Buddhist teachings, especially those preserved in remote monasteries of Tibet and Ladakh, carried the same message. Monks were taught that striving too hard for enlightenment actually became an obstacle to attaining it. A hidden sutra captures it simply: the mind that seeks is the mind that cannot see, but the eyes that close are the ones that truly open. This wisdom reveals a deeper truth. Spiritual awakening and many forms of achievement do not arise through willpower or intensity. They blossom when the striving stops and presence takes its place. The more we try to get there, the more we reinforce the illusion that we are not already there. But in reality, the stillness we seek is already here, beneath the noise of striving. Modern psychology mirrors this truth through the concept of cognitive dissonance. When a person deeply desires something but simultaneously fears they won't achieve it, their inner world is thrown into conflict. This split between wanting and fearing generates enormous mental tension, draining emotional resources and often resulting in procrastination, burnout, or even a complete collapse of motivation. People caught in this cycle often feel cursed, asking themselves why their hard work seems to yield the opposite of what they hoped for. But what they don't see is that this curse is not external. It's self-generated. The tighter we grip the dream, the more it slips from our hands. From a spiritual lens, there's an even deeper mechanism at play, rooted in what some call the law of energetic resistance. This principle holds that what you resist, you energize, and what you cling to from a place of fear or desperation, you push away. When your inner frequency is charged with neediness, anxiety, or scarcity, life mirrors that exact energy back to you. So the more your inner dialogue says, "I must have this or I'll suffer," the more the world reflects experiences of suffering, not as punishment, but as resonance. The universe, governed by laws as old as time, doesn't respond to your words or your wishes. It responds to your frequency. You're not being denied because you're unworthy. You're being shown what your energy is attracting. And until that signal changes, the reflection stays the same. The ancient teachings of the Essenes, mystics from the time of Christ, offer a deeper perspective. They taught that when desire is fueled by personal will, it becomes like a raging fire, clouding the mind and distorting perception. However, when desire is tempered by trust and patience, it transforms into a magnetic force, naturally attracting what we seek. In one of their surviving fragments, it is written, "He who drinks from the cup of striving shall thirst forever. He who waits upon the waters of life shall find his thirst quenched before he asks." Thus, the deeper we look into psychology, philosophy, and spirituality, the more we discover a single immortal truth. Excessive effort and attachment create blockages, not blessings. The masters of old did not achieve greatness by strangling life with their ambitions. They flowed with the river of existence, moving with grace, patience, and inner stillness. Today, in our hyper-driven modern world, this wisdom is more necessary than ever. Society celebrates hustle culture, endless grinding, pushing, and forcing, without recognizing that true mastery and true fulfillment arise from the art of effortless alignment, not obsessive striving. The one who knows when to act and when to let go becomes like the archer who releases his arrow without strain, allowing it to fly straight and true. The first key to the backward law, therefore, is a simple yet profound truth. The less you grasp, the more you are given. The less you force, the more you flow. The less you try, the more you achieve. Wu Wei, often translated as non-action or effortless action, is the idea of accomplishing much by doing less. It might seem absurd to the modern mind, conditioned to believe that success demands relentless effort. Yet the masters of Taoism understood that true power does not arise from force. It arises from harmony. Wu Wei does not mean sitting passively and doing nothing. It means acting without unnecessary strain, without forcing, without grasping. It is an inner state where the mind is clear, the heart is open, and action springs forth as naturally as a bird flying or a tree growing. In Wu Wei, the distinction between the doer and the deed disappears. The action flows through you, not by you. Taoist masters use water as a metaphor for Wu Wei. Water is soft and flexible, yet it can wear down the hardest obstacles. It doesn't resist the flow of life. It adapts, moves, and ultimately shapes mountains. It's powerful not through force, but through patience and flexibility. An ancient text from the Maoshan cave says, "The wise move with the current, not against it. Their strength is in yielding. Their victory is in humility." This isn't just a metaphor. Modern science supports this with the concept of the flow state. In this state, people are deeply focused on an activity and experience joy. The brain releases chemicals like dopamine and endorphins that boost creativity, problem-solving, and performance. Many top performers say they achieve their best work not by trying harder, but by entering a natural flow where things seem effortless. Flow can't be forced. It happens when there's a clear goal, immediate feedback, and a balance between skills and challenge. In flow, the ego disappears and actions happen naturally. This is what the Taoists were talking about. True success comes from acting effortlessly. As the Tao Te Ching says, when nothing is done, nothing is left undone. When you stop fighting life and start trusting it, the right actions happen on their own, and results come easily. The second key to mastering the backward law is clear. By acting without forcing, you align with life. You achieve more by doing less. You move forward by standing still. You succeed by surrendering. Why is it that the more we want something, the harder it is to get. Why does the search for peace bring anxiety, longing for love lead to loneliness, and chasing success often result in failure? The answer is in the law of reversed effort. This idea, introduced by Emile Coué and later expanded by thinkers like Aldous Huxley, says the harder you try to force something, the less likely you are to succeed, especially when emotions are involved. We all have both a conscious and subconscious mind. The conscious mind is driven by willpower, intention, and effort. It's the part of us that says, "I will make this happen." However, most of our behaviors, emotions, and responses are governed by the subconscious, which doesn't respond well to force. Instead, it reacts to imagery, beliefs, and emotions. When you try to force your will against subconscious doubts or fears, you create inner conflict. For example, if you tell yourself, "I must relax," the subconscious might interpret this as, "I am not relaxed," which only amplifies the tension. This is why the more you try to force relaxation, the more tension you feel. The same happens when you try to force sleep. It keeps you awake. Or when you try to be confident, it triggers insecurity. The subconscious views these efforts as proof that the desired state is lacking, reinforcing that absence. This is why Rumi says, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you." This principle of reversed effort explains why many spiritual practices emphasize letting go, surrender, and simply being rather than doing. When you stop demanding from life, you create space for it to offer you what you need freely. By releasing your grip, you allow life to carry you to places beyond your imagination. The third key to mastering the backward law is revealed. By releasing desperate desire, you eliminate inner opposition. When you stop struggling, you create space for fulfillment to arise naturally. Letting go of the fight allows you to tap into your greatest power. At the core of the world's deepest teachings is the concept of surrender, not weakness, but the highest form of intelligence. True surrender is the union of your individual soul with the universal intelligence that governs all things, the force that spins planets, grows forests, and beats hearts effortlessly. Without this connection, life can feel like a constant struggle, but through surrender, releasing control, you align with the flow of existence. Life becomes a symphony, and you become both the instrument and the music. This truth is reflected in the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna advises Arjuna to let go of attachment to results while still fulfilling his duties. It's about acting with balance and acceptance. This is the essence of yoga. Similarly, in the Himalayan monasteries, the masters taught Ishvara Pranidhana, the practice of surrendering to the Supreme Being. In this stage, the seeker releases fear, craving, and the urge to control, becoming an open channel for grace, free from the exhausting need to manage every detail of life. Interestingly, modern psychology mirrors this ancient wisdom through the idea of radical acceptance. True healing begins not through resistance, but by meeting reality with kindness and understanding. Where resistance creates tension, acceptance brings freedom. Surrender at its core creates room for extraordinary things to unfold, gifts from life that the force of will alone could never summon. In mystical Christian thought, surrendering to divine will is seen as the gateway to grace, a sacred force that restores and transforms in ways logic can't explain. As Meister Eckhart once said, the soul must give itself fully to God, and in doing so becomes one with the divine. Surrender isn't some romantic fantasy, it's a spiritual principle. It moves us from the limited self to a boundless awareness, from fear to clarity, from struggle to transformation. Real strength lies not in domination, but in aligning with the source of all things. When we surrender completely, life begins to respond differently. Paths open up, supportive people appear, intuition becomes sharper, and even difficult circumstances start to resolve on their own timeline. This isn't superstition. It's what happens when we stop resisting and allow life to unfold through us. This is the fourth key to the backward law. When we release our small agenda and trust in something greater, we tap into a field of wisdom and energy far beyond what the thinking mind can grasp. By letting go of control, we gain something far better: true flow, inner peace, and meaningful fulfillment. At the highest point of the spiritual path, Beyond effort and surrender lies a state of deep allowing. It's not a technique, it's a way of being. In this state, struggle fades, and life itself begins to cooperate. Resistance is the inner no to what's happening, born from the ego's belief that life must match its expectations. That resistance feeds anxiety and pain. It's like being caught in a trap. The harder you pull, the tighter it holds. But non-resistance isn't weakness. It's a powerful openness, a willingness to meet the present moment without clinging or avoiding. It's conscious surrender, a quiet inner trust that each moment has its own purpose, even if unseen. Zen calls this state mushin, a mind free from tension and judgment. The awakened person bows equally to joy and sorrow, knowing both are part of the same eternal dance. Following the same wisdom, the mystic Julian of Norwich saw beyond suffering and declared with certainty, "All shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." Non-resistance doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting with calm awareness instead of being driven by impulse. When the mind is quiet, the right action comes naturally, like a reflection on still water, not rushed, just real. Ancient Egyptian mystics and Hermetic teachings understood this well. They trained to maintain inner harmony, knowing that only a peaceful soul could access higher powers. Even quantum science hints at this. The observer influences reality. Where there's resistance, there's disorder. Where there's openness, there's alignment. The mystics had it right. Your inner world shapes what you experience outside. When you stop fighting life, you start moving with it. As a partner, not a victim. Life begins to flow, not because the world shifted, but because you did. And here lies the final key to the backward law. When you stop resisting, life starts giving. When you meet each moment with acceptance, every obstacle becomes a chance to grow. Every pain a path to peace. Every loss a setup for something greater. You realize that life wasn't punishing you. It was preparing you to receive what only surrender could unlock. Thanks for watching. And if this message touched something in you, leave a like and subscribe for more wisdom for your journey.